Well, I'm going to try doing this video a little bit of a different style than what I usually do. Let me know if you guys like this, don't like it. So typically, you guys know I'm usually just kind of recording myself work and talking while I'm working, and I don't know, to me it always feels a little bit unorganized and kind of unprofessional. And I made that one video from what we put in the tub, and I kind of just liked that format. So I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I decided to do this weekend pretty much the same way. I didn't do much recording while I was working, but I did take I did take some video, and I took quite a few pictures. And I'm going to kind of just talk you through what all I did this weekend. So it's 7:15 Sunday night, so I've been in here all weekend. So I've been going hard and heavy ever since I got off work on Friday. And I literally just stopped. There's still dust in the air from where I just finished sweeping. So let me talk you through everything. Thursday afternoon, I was in here kind of brainstorming, looking over everything, thinking about what comes next, and I started thinking about finishing this wall right here. And the more I stared at it, the more it looked not right. I was kind of noticing, and I've been noticing ever since I did the slab, that this room still doesn't look straight. For a long time, in the beginning, I thought it was because this wall wasn't level. Then I corrected the stem wall, and then everything still seemed kind of wonked. And then I thought, well, it must just be the slab, so I fixed the slab, and it still always felt off in here. And I've never put a laser on this wall before. So Thursday night, I finally decided to put a laser on the wall, and as you can see in the picture, this wall, it was 4 inches out of plumb from bottom to top, and that is in 88. I think this wall is 88 inches tall. So not a very long span to be out 4 inches. I do a lot of work in remodels of commercial buildings. Typically, I'm never really working on remodels on houses, and I can tell you, it's very rare that we ever come across something that's that bad out of level. Anything. The worst I've ever seen, I think, in my career is the remodel we're doing right now. We're currently working in a school that's being remodeled that was built in the 70s. And one classroom in that school the floor drops, or the whole building actually drops 3 inches from one side to the other. But that's across a long classroom. So, like, coming across a wall that's 4 inches out of plumb is pretty bad. So I started putting a plan together to correct it Thursday night and all day Friday. And as soon as I got home from work Friday, I got in here and started tearing up subfloor, pulled the carpet out of this room on the other side of the wall, pulled up the subfloor, started looking at the joists. I noticed that all the floor joists had spaced off the rim joist several inches, about 2 inches. No new thing to us that the house is moving. This house has experienced a lot of movement throughout the years that it's been built. But anyway, throughout the course of time, the house has... Really what's happening is the house is sliding down the hill. It's all doing this, and the bottom is kind of sliding out from under it at the same time. So the best way that I could come up with to try to correct that was to minimize some of the weight on the wall and then scoot the bottom over and try to plumb it back up, because it was leaning like this. And so the bottom needed to come over this way, or the top needs to come back this way. I don't have a good way to pull the top back this way. I kind of think that that's where a lot of the movements probably come from. I think that side, my theory is that side of the house has been sinking, and so as it sinks, it pulls the house over like this. And I think at this point, even if I raised this side, it probably wouldn't push this side back, you know? So all I can really do at this point is try to correct this wall on this side as best as I can. So the best thing I could come up with, since I can't move the top and I'm not going to pick that side of the house up, was to push the bottom over. So I began to take weight off the wall. And another problem that we had with that is that the way that this house is framed, it's not the same way that they frame most modern houses, where generally, at least in my experience, usually a house is built with floor joists going across, and then a sill plate for the wall sits on top of the floor joist, and then the wall's framed on top of that. And when a house is framed that way, you can usually pick the floor joists up, and that will lift the wall. Well, the way this house is framed, I'll throw a picture up right here of the way I drew it up. Floor joist hit the rim joist that sits on top of a sill plate that's at the very bottom, and then the studs are notched around the rim joist and set on the sill plate. It's an interesting way of doing it. I don't really understand a benefit or negative to it. I mean, the negative that you see, or that I see, is that when you're in this situation, if you need to pick the wall up, you can't lift it by the floor joists, because you would just pull the floor joists off. So since that was a situation, I couldn't put something underneath all the floor joists to pick the wall up, and I also couldn't stick something under the sill plate. And something else, little side note, that sill plate was surprisingly not rotted. It's just sitting on rocks. That's another thing I guess I should mention. This wall right here is just flat rocks that they stacked up, and they set that sill plate on top of it, stood the rim joist up, nailed the floor joist to it, put the studs on top of it. This wall, all the way down the house, is just sitting on rocks. All of the walls from this point over are just sitting on stacked up rocks. But that sill plate, for all the years that it's been sitting on those rocks, surprisingly not rotted. Or at least not that rotted. It's in better shape than I expected. So if the slab wasn't here, I could potentially dig through in a couple spots, put some boards underneath that sill plate, and lift it this way. Couldn't do that because I got a slab right here. So my next best idea I could come up with was to get the weight of the roof off the wall by lifting the top plate that the rafters all sit on. I got my bottle jack out of my truck. I cut a 2x4 to fit the length from this top plate down to the jack with a piece of metal on top of the jack. And I lifted this side first, and then I cut a 2x4 to scotch in underneath that top plate and sit on the slab, lowered it back down, and then I lifted this side right here as high as I could, cut a 2x4 and scotched it in right here. And then, at that point, the weight of the roof was off the wall, and I could see that it was because I had pretty good gaps. I had about inch gaps at the top of these studs where the top plate sits on top of it. So I knew those 2x4s were holding the weight of the roof. Then, I screwed a 2x4 across all these studs right here, and I lifted this stud up as much as I could, about an inch, and then I lifted these studs up, and then I lifted this stud up about an inch, and I cut a 2x4 and scotched underneath that 2x4 I had screwed horizontally to these studs on both sides to support the weight of the wall, while the roof was supported by the other two 2x4s. Then I had the wall supported by this, and then I ran into the problem of the bathtub being here. So I built a base out of a 2x4 that sits on the sill plate of this other wall that's not connected, and comes over and across with a 4x4, and then down with another 2x4 onto the slab. And I screwed a separate 2x4 to these two studs, and then I lifted these two, and then I set my jack on top of the 4x4 stand, and I jacked these two up, and as soon as those were up, I screwed that brace to the wall, that way it couldn't kick out backwards. And then I cut two more 2x4s to set these two studs on. So then at that point, I had the weight of the wall and the weight of the roof off of the sill plate, so it was no longer resting on those rocks, and it was somewhat free to move. So then I pulled my bottle jack out, I took it over to this wall where I do have a concrete stem wall that sticks up. I laid the jack on its side, took my same 2x4, it happened to be about the same length from the one that reached up to the top plate, ended up being about the same length to reach across the room, and I did one stud at a time. I pushed it with the jack until the rim joist was tight on those floor joists again, and then I attached them. By doing that, I effectively moved the bottom of the wall 2 inches, and that was where I was out of room because I hit the floor joist, and I wasn't going to start cutting the floor joist down just to continue scooting the wall even farther. I kind of just hated to just continue scooting the wall over. So I got those 2 inches, but that still left me 2 inches out of plumb, which is still a lot for a wall this height. So that's where I attached these this morning. So all of that I just described was Friday night and Saturday. This morning I woke up and started on these furring strips, these out of square fur out strips. So it's obviously not ideal that the wall is still out 2 inches. I've kind of learned by watching other people remodel old buildings and old houses and stuff, you kind of just do the best that you can and you work with what you have. Obviously, in a perfect world, this wall would be plumb, and I could continue working on it and spending time and money and material on fixing this wall, and because you kind of get into that solving problems and fixing things and replacing things, And if you continue on that path, eventually you're just rebuilding the entire house. And that's not what I'm trying to do here with this house. I've kind of come to the conclusion, when I started off here, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'm kind of beginning to come to the, I don't really want to say conclusion, but the acceptance of, I really think that the goal here is to just squeeze another 10 to 15, maybe 20 years out of this house. I don't think this house is so great that it's a candidate for a full-blown restoration. I think it's a fixer-upper that needs attention in a few spots, and it's kind of towards the end of its life, probably. Now, I'm not trying to flip this house before anyone starts jumping to that conclusion. I still am not set on what I want to do here. But as of right now, I don't have any plans to sell this property when I'm done. I like working on the house. I kind of want to just keep doing this, see how it goes, see where it goes, see what else, because there's a lot of potential in the rest of the property. I definitely believe that there's a point where if you continue beyond that point with more and more serious repairs on this house, you may as well just tear it down and build a new house. I think now the right move with the place is to just do what it takes to get a few more years out of it. It's a cheap place for me to live for now. It may be something else eventually. It may be a guest house if I build a new house up on the property. I don't know. I hate to even speculate on what's going to eventually happen. As of right now, it's just a cheap place for me to live and gain some experience working on and share the process with everybody. So all that is to defend these out-of-square fairing strips, because it feels hack jobby to me, and I don't want people to start thinking I'm trying to be a hack job. I'm doing what I can to get myself a plumb wall. And so now, by doing this, the exterior of this wall is plumb on all of these strips. So when I do my board and sheetrock, it's all not going to be sloped away. And when I put my door in, I can plumb it to this side, and it'll be straight. It's going to look weird on the other side, but when that room gets remodeled, I can correct it and do the same thing on the opposite side. And in the end, I'll just end up with a wall that's like 6 or 8 inches thick instead of a regular, I guess it'll be like 8 or 10 inches thick instead of a regular 5-inch wall like you usually would have. Because when I get in here, I can pull all this shiplap off that side, put these strips on the other side, but opposite. We'll have a plumb wall on both sides, and it'll look normal-ish, besides being really thick. Something else I forgot to mention, first thing yesterday morning, I got up, not first thing, as soon as I had the wall pushed over, I went ahead and cut new subfloor and replaced all that I tore out, so I got all that sealed up yesterday as well, with new Advantech subfloor. So now I've got these strips on here, I've got nice laser plumb studs all the way down. Let me talk about one more thing. Niches. A lot of people have talked about how I need to build a niche into the shower. It's the perfect time. I would absolutely agree if I had 2x6 walls, but I don't. This is a 2x4 wall. That's a 2x4 wall. That's a 2x4 wall. Also, I think it would be kind of weird to have a niche on this side. There's no room to build a niche here because I got plumbing in this wall. And these walls need to be insulated because they're exterior 2x4 walls. So I need to cram all the insulation I possibly can into that 4-inch space. So I got no room to do a niche there. What I can do, though, is shelves in either this corner or this corner. If you've ever seen the shelves that go into the corners, I might do glass. I might do something else, metal or something. But we do glass shelves pretty often in showers. You can do a triangle shape with kind of a radius, and you stick it in the tile as you're tiling. And I could do some shelves here or here, there, somewhere. I love the look of a niche, and I love the function of one. I don't have the spot for it. I don't have the setup for it here. It's not going to work. And then this will be a glass enclosure. It's going to be some type of slider. I don't like swing doors on a tub. I think it's just kind of strange. The function of it's nice because you can swing them both open and then you can access the whole shower. It feels weird to me to swing a door open. It's just not my setup. There is one specific type of style of slider that I like a lot. I'll see if I can put a picture of it up. That's probably the style that I'm gonna do with a stationary and a sliding door here. I'll do all matte black hardware. Back to the work that I've gotten done this weekend. There's my little off-track rant. Also yesterday, I got all the plumbing fixed while I was in the process of correcting this crimp ring and stuff. Raised the toilet spout to a proper height. Cut the cold water supply that goes under the slab off. Ran a new cold water supply up this stud right here. So now I've got hot and cold ran through the rafters and across and then over. I've got hot and cold stubbed out, ready for the sink. And then I also insulated all the lines that are in the attic. May or may not be necessary, but I kind of figured, if I ever lost heat or something, it doesn't hurt to spend $7 and put pipe insulation on all those while they're in the attic. So, got all those insulated. Today, I got my plumbing vent stubbed through the roof and put the boot on it. All the instructions say it's sealant-free or sealant-less installation. I'm not sure that I trust it. I think I'm going to get a little bit of some type of roofing sealant and get up there and kind of seal around it a little bit. And then also got my 2 outlets in. I think I'm only going to do 2 outlets in here. I don't see a point in more outlets than that. I've got an outlet on the wall next to the nightstand. Or not nightstand, the vanity. And then I got an outlet right here. Because my toilet actually requires an outlet. It's strange. I kind of regret the purchase of that toilet already. I think it might be a little bit too sophisticated, or it may be a little bit too much. I don't know. I'll see. It's going to be an experiment. We'll look into that. I'll get into all that later on. But it's got all these features and stuff, and I kind of wish I would have just got a regular old toilet. But I did not. So we'll see how that thing works. If it gives me much hassle, I'll replace it. But it does have to be plugged into the wall, which is strange. So it needs its own outlet. So both GFCIs, since we're in a bathroom. Oh, and something else that I just finished up right before this is the last thing I was working on before I started the video. Since I pushed the wall over 2 inches, I now had a 2-inch void all the way across my slab edge to the wall. And I went ahead and mixed up a bag of concrete and dropped it all down in there, filled that in, smoothed it over. That way my tile has something to sit on now that it's going to be sitting, now that we had a 2-inch void. Now that the wall moved 2 inches, the tile obviously is going to extend that way 2 inches. So tonight's Sunday. Wednesday of this week is New Year's Day, so I have that day off work. And New Year's Eve, I'll get off work early, so I'll have half a day and then a full day, because I'm not going to do anything on New Year's Day, to work in here again. So my plan is to get the tile down by the end of the day Wednesday. I don't know if it's going to be complete, but I want to get it all. I want to get it all laid between half that day Tuesday and Wednesday. So obviously I have a little bit of prep work. I'm hoping maybe I can get all the prep work done Tuesday. Maybe I can wake up Wednesday and get it all down in one day, hopefully. Because once that is down and completed, I can put the toilet on and have a working shower and toilet. The goal was to have a functional bathroom by New Year's. I think we're going to be just a little bit beyond that. And it is all thanks to this big problem of discovering that the wall was 4 inches out of plumb. That killed pretty much an entire day. My plan was to do the tile this weekend, but I obviously didn't get to it because I had all this other stuff that I had to correct this first before anything else. But the toilet flange is supposed to sit on the finished floor, so that's what I've been waiting on. For a lot of people don't understand. I think they think that I'm just crazy avoiding the toilet for so long. No, I'm trying my best to do things in the correct order, and I'm still going out of order a little bit because you really want to put sheetrock on and mud and put your cove base down before you put the toilet on because you don't really get access to it behind that. I I'm not going to do that because I don't want to continue waiting. So I'll just do what I got to do to try to finish behind the toilet, and it's probably going to end up not being that good of a job. I'm just going to make sure and not have a seam right behind it that I'll have to work on. But I didn't want to skip on the putting the flange down first and then tiling and then having the flange that's way down there. It's a surprisingly controversial topic if you start studying when you put the flange down. There's a lot of different opinions. But as far as what I can tell, the best way to do it is to do your flooring and then put the flange on top of the flooring. So that's the way that I'm doing it. There is a lot of controversy in toilet installs. You can go down, you can waste a lot of time on Reddit forums and YouTube video comments, and there is the work from this weekend. Honestly, probably the most work I've gotten done in here in one weekend, or the most work I've done in here in one weekend yet. Even though it doesn't really look like it. When I stand back and look around, it looks pretty similar to how it did a couple days ago. Oh, something else I didn't mention, I threw this stud in here, so I've got my 2 door rough openings ready. Once the tile's down, I can go ahead and throw doors in there, which will that'll be a nice finishing, feeling addition. A door is only going to barely fit in the opening where the camera is right there. I'm actually going to have to saw off the top plate a little bit and have no header for the door, or I'm going to have a header that ends into the top plate. It's not going to make it all the way across, because 82 is the height that I need to get a door in there. At that stud, where that jam's going to be, 82 is like the top of where the rafter is that the top plate's nailed to. So that one's going to trim out funky looking, but it's not going to be a 24-inch door like it was before. That's why they had such a narrow door there, because the ceiling slopes into it and it hits it. But I'd rather have a weird looking end at the top and a regular width door than do this every time I walk into the bathroom forever. There's all that from this weekend. Now you guys have a little bit of a plan of what's coming this week. And into next weekend, I'm going to mention as a reminder, I'm probably going to get the flooring down, put the toilet in, insulate, sheetrock, set the vanity, put a sink in it, and then I'm probably going to step away from the bathroom for a little while to correct the drainage issues. That's a big problem that needs to be fixed soon. Definitely before we continue to get much rain or snow melt or anything like that. I honestly kind of wish I would have started with that, but this bathroom didn't work, so I kind of had to fix it. But I've been looking at skid steer rental. I think I'm going to get a tracked skid loader and rent it for about a week, maybe take 2 days off work on a weekend, and see if I can do all the digging and French drain adage and everything that needs to happen over there, fix my driveway at the same time, because that road that I cut in is just too steep. It works fine when it's dry, but like it's been raining a lot recently, I can't get up and down it in anything, and it's a lot of mud's washing down into the driveway, so I'm tracking mud out in the street, so I gotta fix that. I need to put a lot of gravel down. So I'm going to get the bathroom usable and to the point where it's not studs and insulation showing. Screw the sheetrock up before I do any mudding or any finishing or anything. I'm going to move on to that. So I'm hoping I can get to that point in 2 weeks. I hate to even say a timeline because I never meet it, but it would be very nice if I could get the flooring done before this weekend, get the toilet on. Maybe next weekend I can move into insulation and maybe start hanging some sheetrock. Insulation and doors probably. Maybe hang the doors, put the insulation up next weekend. And then maybe I can kind of begin the process of hanging all the sheetrock and stuff. And then maybe by the next weekend or the weekend after that, I can do my skid steer rental. And pretty much everyone in that video suggested French drains. I think everyone's right. I think I'm going to do a series of French drains. I think it needs more than one. Series of French drains along with some grade correctage. Create a slope that actually slopes away from the house. Put a drain. 2, maybe 3 is what I'm thinking. Drains that funnel into these culverts right here. I'm developing a plan. I think it's going to work. But anyway, there's your update. I'm having fun with this. And I'm glad everyone continues to enjoy watching it. I'm glad everyone continues to comment and voice their opinions and stuff. Very helpful. All the insights that everyone gives me. And like always, thanks for watching.